I was curled up on my couch one quiet Tuesday night, scrolling through Instagram, when my heart sank. There it was, my sister Kayla's Christmas post. Mom and Dad smiling by the fireplace. My brother Brandon and his wife Megan helping their kids unwrap gifts. Kayla beaming, holding up what looked like a pricey necklace. The caption? Best Christmas ever with the fam, so grateful for these people. The fam, huh? I'm 32. And once again, I wasn't there. Just like Thanksgiving. Just like the past 6 years of holidays that came and went without me. You know what makes it worse? I used to be the one who made the holidays happen. Back in my 20s, I was the planner. I coordinated dishes, made sure we had enough sage for Mom's stuffing, texted reminders about who was bringing what. I was the one who made sure the table felt like home. And then, the invites just stopped. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe someone thought I already knew the time. Maybe they assumed I'd just show up. So I did. And when I walked in, they looked surprised, but not rude. I brushed it off. But slowly, things shifted. I'd call and ask, "What time's dinner?" And get vague answers. "Oh, we're keeping it small this year," or "We didn't know if you'd be free." Then I'd open Instagram later and see the truth. The whole family gathered around a big table, smiling with relatives I hadn't seen in a decade. The moment that broke me happened 4 years ago. Mother's Day. I called Mom 3 days before. "Hey Mom, I'd love to come by on Sunday. Bring you flowers, maybe spend the afternoon together." She paused. "Oh, well, okay, sure, come by." Not exactly enthusiastic, but I went anyway. I picked up a gorgeous bouquet of white roses, her favorite. Drove 45 minutes out to the suburbs in the navy dress she once told me looked beautiful on me. But when I got there, the house was empty. I stood on that porch for 15 awkward minutes, ringing the doorbell again and again. I called her. Straight to voicemail. Tried Dad. No answer. Brandon? Nothing. Kayla? Same. I drove home confused, still holding the flowers. Maybe there was an emergency. Maybe someone had been rushed to the ER and no one had time to call. I placed the roses in a vase on my kitchen table and waited. Then later that evening, Kayla posted again. Mother's Day brunch at Romano's with the best family ever. There they were, Mom wearing a corsage, everyone sipping mimosas and smiling over plates of eggs Benedict. And not one of them thought to tell me. Not one. That was the moment I stopped chasing them. Stopped calling. Stopped hoping. They had their family. I just wasn't part of it. But what they didn't realize, what they never saw coming, was that one day, I'd stop being hurt and start reclaiming my life. And that day? It was coming soon. They say freedom doesn't come all at once, it arrives in quiet, deliberate steps. For me, it came in the form of a brass house key resting in the palm of my hand. 5 weeks after I told Megan I was ready, I was standing in the foyer of my new home, a charming 2-story colonial on Maple Street. Painted soft blue with white trim and a front porch big enough for a rocking chair and a cup of coffee on Sunday mornings. The moment I stepped inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, belonging. Not to people, but to space. To peace. The house came fully furnished, which felt like divine intervention. A plush gray couch, a whitewashed dining table with 4 matching chairs, a queen bed with crisp white linens. Even the kitchen had thoughtful touches, stacked ceramic dishes, brushed nickel hardware, fresh white subway tile. It was cozy without being cramped. Clean without feeling sterile. It was mine. I moved in on a Thursday. No fanfare. No Facebook post, just me, my car packed with boxes, and a playlist of 80-second ballads to keep me company. I unpacked slowly, savoring every drawer I filled and every picture I hung. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was tiptoeing through someone else's expectations. Every inch of this house reflected my choices. The first night, I lit a candle that smelled like vanilla and cedarwood, poured a glass of red wine, and sat on my patio under the string lights I'd hung myself. I could hear distant crickets, the soft hum of the neighbor's sprinkler, and nothing else. No one interrupting. No one asking where I'd been or why I hadn't called. It was perfect. The next morning, I made pancakes just for me. No one was judging how much syrup I used or asking why I didn't invite anyone over. I curled up on the couch with a throw blanket and read a book without checking my phone every 10 minutes. And it hit me, this is what peace feels like. Not flashy. Not loud. Just stillness, earned. I didn't throw a pity party for the birthdays they forgot, I threw a housewarming party for the life I built. I made a guest list not out of obligation, but out of gratitude. My favorite coworker Janet, who always brings wine and wisdom. My old college roommate Brianna, who once stayed on the phone with me for 3 hours after a breakup. My neighbor Allison, who waves every morning from her front yard. And my cousin Emily, who sends me handwritten cards, just because. I didn't invite my parents. Or Brandon. Or Kayla. Not to be petty, to be free. When that Saturday arrived, my little colonial home came alive. Laughter bounced off the walls, people brought gifts, flowers, food, Uncle Ron brought his famous potato salad. Someone turned on music, and before I knew it, we were dancing barefoot on my hardwood floors. I wasn't filling a gap anymore. I was creating joy. Toward the end of the evening, Aunt Debbie pulled me aside. She looked around at the happy chaos and whispered, "This is beautiful, Brooke, but where's your family?" I looked her in the eye and answered with something I hadn't said out loud until that moment. "They're not here, Debbie. Because they haven't been for 6 years." Her face fell. "I didn't know." I nodded. "That's okay, now you do." She hugged me tight. And I knew by morning, everyone in the extended family would know why I was done playing the forgotten daughter. And I didn't care. Because for once, I wasn't chasing acceptance. I was living in it. And it looked a lot like a blue house on Maple Street. There's a kind of peace that settles in your bones when you finally stop begging for a seat at a table that was never set for you. That's how it felt after the housewarming. When the last guest left and the laughter faded into soft echoes, I sat on my couch, and looked around. Dishes in the sink, half-empty wine glasses on the counter, the faint smell of candles and potato salad lingering in the air. And for once, I didn't feel empty. I felt full. Full of connection, full of belonging, full of people who chose to show up. 3 days later, the peace broke like glass. It started with a phone call. Mom's name lit up my screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then came Dad. Then Brandon. Then Kayla. I didn't pick up for any of them. The messages started rolling in like a tidal wave, passive-aggressive, dramatic, laced with guilt and zero accountability. How could you embarrass us like that in front of everyone? Now our relatives think we don't like you. Why would you humiliate your own family like this? I laughed out loud, an honest, from the gut laugh. Not because it was funny, but because it was so typical. They weren't upset because they hurt me. They were upset because people knew they did. I didn't answer. I didn't explain. I let silence do the talking. But they weren't done. Saturday morning, I was on the patio sipping my coffee, watching the sun creep over the fence, when I heard a knock that rattled my front door. I peeked through the peephole, and my stomach dropped. There they were. Mom, Dad, Brandon, Kayla. All lined up like some twisted intervention. I opened the door slowly. "What do you want?" Mom didn't answer. She just barged past me like it was still her house. The others followed without a word. No invitation. No apology. "Excuse me?" I said, louder this time. "What do you think you're doing?" They scattered like they owned the place. Brandon trailed his fingers along my granite counters like he was evaluating real estate. Kayla was peering into my living room like she was casing the joint. "Nice place," she muttered. Not a compliment. More like an accusation. Then Mom unleashed her fury. "How dare you disgrace us like this, Brooke? Do you know what you've done? Debbie has been calling me nonstop. Everyone wants to know why we treat you differently. Why we've made you the outsider." I didn't flinch. I just stood there, arms crossed, calm as still water. "Why haven't you invited me to a holiday in 6 years?" I asked. That shut them up. Mom's lips parted, but no words came. Dad looked down at the floor like he'd suddenly noticed his shoes. Kayla acted like she didn't hear me. Brandon cleared his throat and shrugged. You don't even know what company I work for, I added. Silence. They didn't. Not one of them could name it. I'd been working at Davidson Marketing for almost a decade. I was promoted 3 years ago to senior account manager. I handled million-dollar clients. I bought this house fair and square, no help, no cosigners. I'd built a life they knew nothing about. Because they never asked. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. You need to leave. Mom's mouth fell open. You're not even going to offer us tea? I smiled cold, steady. I'm offering you something better, a door that closes gently behind you instead of slamming like you did to me, year after year. She flushed crimson. Brandon scoffed. Kayla rolled her eyes. Dad said nothing. One by one, they stepped out. Kayla turned at the door. This isn't over. Yes, I said, closing it behind her. It island. And just like that, I reclaimed my space and my silence. As the door clicked shut behind them, I stayed there for a moment, forehead resting against the wood, letting the silence settle back in. Their shouting faded into muffled bickering out in the driveway, followed by car doors slamming, then nothing. I expected that would be the end of it. Maybe they'd lick their wounds in silence. Maybe they'd do what they've always done, pretend it never happened. That would have been fine with me. Honestly, I was hoping for it. But of course, they couldn't let it go. 3 days later, I opened my laptop and saw a new email from Dad. Subject line, family dinner invitation. At first, I hovered over the delete button. But curiosity won. The message was short. Too short. Dear Brooke, your mother and I would like to invite you to dinner this Sunday at 6 p.m. We'll be having pot roast and mashed potatoes. We hope you can join us. Love, Dad. Pot roast and mashed potatoes. It was so painfully formal, like I was a distant cousin they hadn't seen in 20 years instead of their daughter. Like they were trying to play normal family, on paper, just enough to say they tried. I didn't reply. I deleted it. The next morning, I got a text from Kayla. Want to go shopping this weekend? There's a Nordstrom sale, thought we could hang out like old times. Old times? What old times? We hadn't gone shopping together since I was in college, and even then, she only came along because Mom gave her gas money. I stared at the message until it blurred, then closed the app without responding. Then Brandon tried his hand at nostalgia. He emailed me a handful of old photos. Us as kids, him teaching me how to ride a bike, all 3 of us bundled up building a snowman in the front yard of our old house. Captioned with, "Remember when we were close?" I miss those days. I looked at the photos for a long time, not because I was sentimental, but because, for a moment, I saw proof that I wasn't crazy. We had been close once. We had laughed, played, shared stories and secrets. But that was a different lifetime. That was before they collectively decided I didn't count. It wasn't me who broke us. It was the silence. The empty chairs, the ignored birthdays, the selective love. I didn't answer Brandon either. That whole week, I kept thinking maybe they were getting the message. Maybe the wall I'd finally built was solid enough, but I underestimated just how desperate people get when their image starts to crack. Because the next message wasn't digital, it was at my front door. I was watering the little hydrangeas I'd planted out front when I saw her. My mother. Alone this time. No Dad, no Brandon, no Kayla. Her shoulders looked smaller. Her lipstick was smudged. And she was holding a tray of what I later learned were lemon bars, my favorite when I was 8. Brooke, she said gently. Please, can we talk? Part of me wanted to shut the door again, slam it. Cut the conversation off before it began. But another part, the very human, very tired part, felt the weight of all those years pressing against my chest. So I stood still and let her speak. I know we've hurt you. I know we haven't been the family you deserved, but I want to fix it. I want to show you you matter. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because I've learned something in this whole journey: words mean nothing without actions, and I was done living off scraps of affection and empty invitations. If she really wanted to make it right, she'd have to prove it. I sat frozen in the driver's seat, clutching the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. She's been calling relatives all week, telling them how excited she is that her daughter is coming home. Those words echoed in my head like church bells. I'd said I would come because for a second, I believed her. I believed that sad, pleading look in her eyes. That maybe, just maybe, she'd finally realized I was worth more than a last-minute text or a forgotten birthday. But I was wrong. It wasn't about me. It never had been. It was about damage control. Optics. Her social currency. She didn't want reconciliation, she wanted a trophy. A well-dressed, smiling daughter she could trot out in front of the family to silence the whispers. I wasn't a person to her. I was a headline. Brooke's coming so everything must be fine. I sat in that parking garage for 20 minutes, staring at the scarf I'd tucked into my passenger seat. Navy silk with silver stars, wrapped neatly in boutique tissue paper. It had cost me nearly $80, and it suddenly felt like a symbol of my own gullibility. I returned it that afternoon. The saleswoman asked if anything was wrong with it. No, I said. It's perfect. Just not going to the right person. I didn't call Mom. I didn't send a text. I didn't craft some eloquent excuse. If she wanted me at that party to prove we were a happy family again, she was going to be stuck wondering where her main exhibit went. Sunday rolled around like thunder. At 5 p.m., I turned off my phone and lit a candle in the kitchen. I made myself a pan-seared salmon fillet with roasted asparagus and garlic mashed potatoes. I opened a bottle of red and poured a generous glass. I ate in silence. Peaceful, intentional silence. At 6:30, I turned my phone back on. 15 missed calls. 7 voicemails. Over 20 texts. The first was from Mom at 6:05 p.m. Honey, where are you? Everyone's here waiting for you. Then 6:15. Brooke, please call me back. People are asking where you are. Dad at 6:45. Your mother is very upset. You need to come right now. Brandon at 7 p.m. What the hell, get your ass over here, Mom's crying. Kayla at 7:15. Everyone's staring at us, this is so embarrassing, just come already. Every message dripped with urgency, but not one of them said, we're sorry. Not one of them acknowledged the years they left me out. Just perform. Smile. Show up. Be what we need you to be. At 7:30, Aunt Debbie called. And this time, I picked up. Hi, sweetheart, she said. Where are you? Your mom keeps looking at the door like you're about to walk in. I took a deep breath and said, put me on speaker, Aunt Debbie, please. There was a pause, some muffled background noise, and then her voice came through again, softer this time. Okay, you're on. I closed my eyes and spoke with calm I didn't know I had. Hi, everyone. I just want to be clear. When my mother invited me to this dinner, she told me it would be just us immediate family. She never said it was a party, she never said there'd be guests. I heard rustling, murmurs. For 6 years, I was excluded from holidays, birthdays, and family events without explanation. Now that people are asking questions, I'm being asked to come home, not out of love, but to clean up the narrative. I paused. I'm not coming, and I'm not pretending anymore. Then I hung up. And for the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally said everything that needed to be said. Without screaming. Without apologizing. And without regret. I sat back in my patio chair, wine glass in hand, watching the last trace of daylight sink behind my fence line. The messages kept pinging for a while longer, Mom, Dad, Kayla, Brandon. But I didn't bother checking them. I'd said what needed to be said. And for once, I didn't owe anyone anything. That night, I slept straight through until morning. No tossing, no replaying conversations in my head, no ache in my chest. Just sleep. Deep and clean. By noon, I was making coffee in the kitchen when I saw movement on the porch. I peeked out the side window and there was Aunt Debbie, standing in her Sunday flats with a covered casserole dish and an expression that said she'd driven over the second she got the chance. I opened the door and stepped aside. Is that tuna casserole? Of course, she said, walking in. Comfort food. You earned it. She placed the dish on the counter, then turned to face me. The way she looked at me, eyes full of equal parts, sadness and admiration, I knew something had shifted. We sat at my little kitchen table. No music, no distractions. Just two women with years of family tension sitting between them, and a casserole cooling in the center. She leaned in. After you hung up last night, you could have heard a pin drop. I nodded slowly. I figured. She took a breath. Your mom looked like someone pulled the floor out from under her. Just frozen. Everyone turned to her like, is it true? And instead of owning it, she stammered something about you being too busy with work the last few years. I rolled my eyes. That old excuse again. Then Brandon tried to defend her. Debbie continued, said you never told them about your job or your promotion. And did anyone ask what I actually do? I asked, folding my arms. She shook her head. That's the thing. Your cousin Lisa, she's the one who said, if you're so close to her, what's the name of the company she works for? And? They couldn't answer. Not one of them. It was painful to watch. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It wasn't even about the company name, it was about the fact that they never once cared enough to ask. Uncle Ron stood up, packed up his potato salad, and told your dad, you ought to be ashamed. And Emily? She hugged your mom goodbye, but didn't say a word. Just walked out. I let that sink in. After all these years, I didn't need justice, but validation felt damn good. Debbie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I know this doesn't fix everything. But last night, people saw you. They heard you. And they heard the silence that followed. That told them everything. I gave her a small smile, the kind that says I appreciate this more than you know. We spent the next hour catching up on anything but family. Gardening tips, the new Thai place down on Main Street, a book she thought I'd love. It was the kind of conversation that felt easy, real. As she stood to leave, she looked at me and said, you don't owe them forgiveness just because they're family, you owe yourself peace. I walked her to the door, casserole in hand, and for the first time in a long time, I felt seen, not because I yelled or begged, but because I stopped pretending. And the silence? It finally belonged to me. Aunt Debbie's hand squeezed mine gently, grounding me in the moment. After you hung up, she said softly, there was dead silence. You could have heard a fork hit the floor. I pictured it, my parents frozen in place, my siblings glaring at each other, and a room full of relatives suddenly realizing that the picture-perfect family they thought they knew was just a carefully curated lie. Then the question started, she continued. Uncle Ron didn't waste a second, he looked your father straight in the eye and asked why you hadn't been invited to Christmas. Lisa chimed in, wanting to know why you weren't at Thanksgiving either. I could almost hear the tension crackling like static. Your mom tried to spin it, Debbie said, shaking her head. Said you were always busy with work, but it didn't stick. Then Brandon opened his big mouth and said, well, Brooke never told us about her promotion. I let out a short, dry laugh. Of course he did. So Lisa goes, okay then, what company does she work for? And not one of them could answer. Not your mom, not your dad, not even Kayla. I closed my eyes for a second. That moment, that exact beat, was all I needed. Proof that they hadn't just forgotten. They'd never cared enough to ask. Debbie continued, people started leaving after that. Ron packed up his famous potato salad and said he was disappointed in your parents. Lisa hugged your mom, but didn't say much, just gave her this look, you know? The kind that stings worse than any words. I nodded slowly, a strange calm washing over me. By 8 o'clock, it was just your immediate family left, she added, sitting there with a birthday cake nobody wanted to touch. She reached over again, her eyes warm but heavy. Your mom cried, said she loves all her children equally. But, honey, actions speak louder than words. I don't feel sorry for her, I said, my voice steady. Not anymore. You shouldn't, Debbie said. What they did to you was wrong. And last night just proved they still don't get it. They weren't trying to fix your relationship, they were trying to fix their reputation. Debbie stayed for another hour. We ate her casserole, talked about everything but family, and laughed genuinely, freely. Before she left, she hugged me tightly and whispered, I'm proud of you for standing your ground. You deserve better than crumbs. And I believed her. Over the next few weeks, my family tried everything. They called from unknown numbers, thinking I wouldn't recognize their voices. But I always did. The moment I heard Brooke, it's Mom, or, hey, it's your brother, I hung up. I deleted their emails without reading. I erased their voicemails before they could even finish loading. Brandon even messaged me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn. Professional networking to repair family ties, that was a new low. 3 weeks after the birthday debacle, I was at the grocery store picking out avocados when I ran into Mrs. Whitaker, my childhood neighbor. She looked exactly the same, soft gray curls, turquoise sweater, cart full of produce. Brooke, she said, beaming. I heard you bought a house, how exciting. I did, I said. It's been really wonderful. That's lovely. I saw your mom at the bank last week, she looked so sad. Said you two had a little misunderstanding. I smiled politely. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was 6 years of exclusion. I just finally decided I was okay with letting go. Her eyes widened. Oh my, I had no idea. Most people didn't, I replied, but honestly, I'm happier now than I've ever been. And it was true. My house felt like home. My job was thriving. I'd just signed a major client the week before. And Jake, the guy I met at book club? He was smart, grounded, kind. We'd been spending more time together, and every moment felt easy. The weekend before my birthday, I hosted a backyard dinner. Burgers on the grill, sweet corn, a fire pit lit after sunset. Megan and her husband brought homemade peach cobbler. We played cards under the patio lights until almost midnight. No one asked why my parents weren't there. No one asked about Brandon or Kayla. No one made me feel like anything was missing. Because nothing was missing. Yesterday was my 33rd birthday. I took the day off work and treated myself to a spa day massage, facial, even one of those ridiculous cucumber water drinks. When I came home, my phone was full of messages from people who mattered. Lauren sent flowers. Emily called and sang happy birthday, completely off-key. Jake showed up with a cake from my favorite bakery and a goofy smile on his face. We ate it together while watching the worst rom-com we could find. As for my immediate family, radio silence. But this year, I didn't spend the day checking my phone. I didn't hope for a call that wouldn't come. I didn't feel that quiet ache of being forgotten. Because I wasn't forgotten. I was celebrated. I used to think something was wrong with me. That I must have done something terrible to be treated like I didn't belong. I spent years trying to decode it, fix it, earn my way back into their graces. But the truth is, the problem was never me. They made a choice to treat me like I didn't matter. And I finally made the choice to believe them. But now I know my worth. And it isn't measured by their attention, their invitations, or their approval. I'm building my own traditions. My own circle. My own family from the people who choose me, every single day. And for the first time in a long, long while, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Life lesson for a middle-aged American audience. There comes a point in life, often in our 32nd, 42nd, or even later, when we must confront a painful truth. Not all families choose love, and not all relationships deserve to be maintained out of obligation. This story is a profound reminder that exclusion, even by blood, is a form of emotional abuse when repeated over time. The protagonist's journey isn't just about family estrangement, it's about rediscovering self-worth after years of being forgotten, overlooked, and used for appearances. For many middle-aged Americans, this hits close to home. We invest so much in others, planning holidays, making the effort, trying to keep peace, only to find ourselves left out when it matters most. But healing doesn't come from forcing our way back in. It comes from letting go, reclaiming our space, and building a life surrounded by those who choose us without strings. The quiet power in this story lies in choosing peace over performance, truth over appearances, and real connection over family image. The table may be smaller now, but it's filled with love, laughter, and genuine belonging. And that's enough. That's freedom.